Gordon Wemp, Woodstock Zoning Board of Appeals Chair, and I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order.
Pizzolato here.
Okay, Gordon Wemp.
Marcia's willing.
Joe Bellick.
Michael Castiglione.
Okay, we have a quorum. Are there any changes or additions to the meeting agenda for tonight? No. Okay. I would like to submit the minutes for approval from January 13th, 2022. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, minutes approved. We have a public hearing tonight. We have two, actually. We'll start with ZBA case number 22-02, the application of Willowwood Holdings LLC, Gabby Raven, for property located at 271 Tinker Street, Woodstock, New York, 12498. A 0.9 acre parcel located within a light industrial zoning district for variances from the zoning law of the town of Woodstock, Article 9, non-conforming uses and non-complying buildings, Section 260-94, non-conforming uses, Section 260-94A, 4, B, 3, and 260 Attachment 1 to allow residential space in a commercial office space. So, Gabby,
Yes.
it's your show.
Uh,
Jude,
I'm
Yeah.
going to be recusing myself.
okay. Well, you can certainly stay. That really comes at the vote, you know. You're welcome to participate in any way you feel fit. So,
Wait
Okay.
a minute. Wait a second.
I'm not going.
What?
I'm not going
If-
to, Joe. Don't worry.
Okay.
No, I
If-
know.
if
You're
you're-
not allowed to participate, Gordon. I'm
Yeah, if-
recusing myself.
all right. Well, then press the mute button and there'll be no problem.
No, she can listen, but if she's recused, she's
That's what
recused.
mute. Well, the mute doesn't mute her ears. It just mutes her mouth.
Right. What I'm saying, Gordon, is. 'cause
I know,
this is
Joe.
public-
I know, Joe. It's okay. It's all right. Let's move on.
No,
Yeah.
Gordon, wait a minute.
We understand.
Don't-
She
wait a
said
minute.
she's.
Wait a minute. Don't shut me up. Okay? We have to have rules here. And the rule is if she's recused from everything. She
I
can't
agree. I
comment.
agree. I
or-
misspoke, Joe.
Okay.
I know. I asked her to mute herself, and she did.
Okay. All right.
All right. Thank you.
You
Gabby,
ready for me?
yes,
Okay.
go ahead. It's your show now.
So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the building or not. I'm sure you all are. It's was a residence for many, many years. And I converted it when I bought it back in 2016. At the time, there wasn't a big use for, it was in really bad shape. It was overlooked press, as you know, and they were renting the whole. Is that me?
Who has, sorry, hold on. We have some serious feedback going on. Does anybody have dual instruments on, like phones and computers?
Well, we have two laptops on the same table here. We're Gabby and I are in the same room.
You're gonna have
We
to
moved to a
mute
different
one
room.
then. Could you mute one?
So,
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay,
Is that better?
yes. Thank you.
Okay, so anyway, so I bought it in 2016. It was an absolute mess. Spent almost a year renovating it. And at the time, the kitchen was a bit of a disaster. And the use at that time to be able to turn it and rent it was office space. So I spoke to Ellen and she came in and she agreed that that would be a good use and it was an allowable use. And I got really lucky because the dentist across the street moved in right away in the ground floor. She had just changed offices from 268 to 271. And then I rented all the other office space it took probably 2 years, but 2 years. And most people rented for 2 years. So now with COVID and the change of like life in general, it's been really hard to rent the whole ground floor. It's about 1,100 square feet. And I took out the tub and I took out the stove and the kitchen cabinetry, which all is in the basement. And everybody was asking, because of course we have a housing shortage. Everybody was asking, is it okay that I live here? And I said, no, you cannot live here. It's not an allowed use of the property, etc. and it kept happening. We put it on the multiple listing to rent it, and just everybody wanted to use it as just an apartment. And it's very dividable. There's like a clear area for a living space and a clear area for an office space, with absolutely no work done except me putting back the tub and putting back the cabinetry and a range oven. So that made me think, oh God, maybe I need to help change the zoning. How do I do that? Because when I purchased it, it was mixed use. And I don't know if you guys know, but there's two addresses. There's 271, which is the house, which looks like a house. I'm just going to refer to it as a house. And the white building in the back, which is a warehouse. So when I didn't realize when I had purchased it, and nor was I notified of it, and I know this is on me, it's no one else's fault. I didn't realize that if I converted it to just offices, that it would get rid of the mixed use of the front building, which I, to be honest, was always hoping that when we retired, we would live there. So, because it's a lovely house. So I talked to actually not Ellen, to Angela in the office, and she said, this is what I needed to do in order to have a tenant who would want to rent the ground floor, have like a little studio, a little bedroom in the back, and have his office in the front. And he's just he's a professional service person. He's an insurance agent. And so that's why I'm here. There's no structural changes, nothing changes except me putting in the cabinets and a stove. It's fire coded. It's right in the back. It's front and back emergency exits. There's no fire issues for that. It's about 1,100 square feet. About 500 is bedroom, 700, 650, 600, maybe 450 is bedroom. Actually, it's less. 350 is the bedroom, and the rest is would be office. And I'm happy to show you guys what that looks like.
Gabby, this is the blue house right on
The blue
corner?
house, exactly. Exactly. And just the first floor, just that ground level. And it's front to back.
So may I speak, Gordon?
Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Okay, so Gabby and I have studied the 5 criteria you have for making your decisions. And I think we can make a convincing argument for each one. That there would be like a negative declaration parameters that you set forth. Gabby, there's a residence next to this on Route 212 on the same side of the street. There's a residence across from it. This was originally built as a residence. I think it's circa 1910 by one town record. Gabby, of her own volition, when she sold 268 Tinker Street right across the street, which had been like a dental office for 40 plus years, she sold it to a resident who's converted that back to a residence, which is a different zoning district. It is permissible on that side of the street. So there's precedent for a residence. There's residences, next door and across the street. Use as a residence would be much less adverse for the neighborhood and the environment than a lot of the allowable industrial, light industrial uses, like dry cleaner, construction yard, printing
Garage,
operation, garage.
printing.
So I noticed that in your parameters that you use to make your decisions, there's nothing in there that comes about it from the standpoint of like this could actually make it better for the neighborhood. Like it's just, but we feel that this use, is a positive one for the neighborhood. It's also over the town aquifer. So some of the allowable uses are problematic for that as well. So that's my input.
Okay. Any questions from the board? The parameters you were given, they were for a use variance, correct? You were given the ones?
No, that's,
Or the, I would know, I thought it was for, not for the use variance. It's for the
area variance. I was gonna say, I didn't even think about sending them the 4 criteria for the use variances.
Is this a use variance or an area? It's a use variance, correct?
It's a use variance because they're changing the use of the
Yeah.
actual,
Right.
Do you know where this property fits in with the Aquifer Preservation District? Because I know there's a lot of work on that.
do I know?
Actually,
I was told that it's directly under my building.
well, it's more of a rhetorical question. I know.
Oh, okay.
I know that Ken Pans is working on an aquifer protection district, an overlay district within Bearsville, and I'm not sure how the use of this property fits into that overarching plan, because
Yeah.
if it met the criteria of what that team's objectives were, that would be great. If it
I
was-
mean, I've been here for 30 years, and I mean, this is just a side. I'm an environmentalist, so I take this stuff very, very seriously. And I'm so afraid that if one day I did sell this building, somebody would put one of the light industry uses there, and it'd be a catastrophe. And I had talked a couple of years ago, though, to Bill McKenna about it, and he said it would get kind of put into the what you call the comprehensive plan. But when I went to look at it, they had forgotten about it because it was never changed to neighborhood commercial or anything that would prevent these, a garage, a printing facility, a dry clean, like all these polluters. Nothing has changed in that in it for me. It's still light industry, which is really dangerous for our town. Like it scares me. So that's just an outside comment of what we're here for, but I just want to record it in some way that I am seriously concerned about that. And I don't know how to go about changing that, because I attempted to and was told it would be taken up by the comprehensive plan, but the comprehensive plan has said this is light industry.
Oh, obviously by the look of the house, it's always been a residential home when it came. And you're
Right.
saying that the first.
And I bought it as that, as mixed
Right.
use,
Right.
front is residential and back is light industry.
So then you took the stove out and the cabinets out, but really
It's
everything.
still a residence, right? Exactly.
Well, I'm the representative on this one, so, I'm going to do my due diligence. I've written down, I've been quiet here. I'm writing everything down, so
Okay.
I can look into a few aspects of this.
And if you want to come and see it, I'm happy to show it to all of you.
Yeah, I will. I will at some point.
Okay.
You have, I guess your contact info's right here, right? The
Yep.
679 number,
679-7743.
and there's a cell too.
Yeah,
Okay.
but call on my home number because you'll get me at work on my cell number and I won't
Okay.
pick it up. Because I won't hear you. I won't be able to hear you.
Gotcha. I will do
Gordon, I was
that.
looking through my email to see if I could find the 4 criteria to send it to them right now, but in that a sea of emails, I can't even focus. So
Well,
I will send it to them tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
a
if you can
beautiful
send-
building and you take.
Thank
such
you.
care of the property. I'd like
I
to-
tried really hard to make it better than it was. So thank you very much. It was a labor of love. It was
And
my turning
what's your-
50 project of like, I drive by it every day from work and I just couldn't stand to see this beautiful building just decaying. Trees were growing out of the the gutters, and it's a beautiful old building with such a rich history. I mean, Simulates was there, and the bakery, and it should be taken care of. So it took a long time to negotiate with Peter, God rest his soul, but it took a long time to get a deal done. So, and thank you, because I was trying very hard to make it better for all of us.
And what's your main reason for changing the use?
That's the market. I mean, I can't rent it. Like, nobody wants a big office in COVID. That's really it. Everybody is asked, we one person businesses, we need an apartment. There's no apartments. We'd really rent it if we could live here and work here. And I said, I can't let you do it.
That's one of the critical criteria on changing of use is financial. Yeah.
Financial is the reason. That is the market, especially now. And, of course, with our housing shortage, it's even more important. And this is what everybody wants.
So Michelle, you'll send that use criteria.
Yeah, I'm still looking. If I find it now, I'll just send it to them right now so they have it.
Okay, and then just look at that, and
Okay.
I'll be in touch with you some more.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm gonna check on a few things here also, and we'll take a good look at it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Anybody else have anything at this point? All right,
One more
Go ahead.
comment,
please.
if you can hear me. So everyone knows that the Woodstock Comprehensive Plan advocates for more housing of every kind in Woodstock, not just workplace and artist housing, but also in affordable housing, but market rate housing.
Yeah.
And that because of the zoning revision committee and the committee that's in charge of looking at the zoning during this moratorium that we have, they're trying to create new ways and new incentives in the zoning for additional housing. So Gabby herself is is in lockstep with those efforts to increase housing.
Right, and with that, and that's a question I meant to ask. Are you you may have stated this, but are you seeking to rent this long term?
Oh, I don't do any short-term rentals. I have a minimum of a 2-year lease. I have a full-time job, so no vacation rentals here.
As a realtor, I can attest to that. It's in the.
No way.
That's what the town's looking for, so.
Yeah, no.
Okay, no, it's good. Okay. I don't have any other questions myself at this point, but so I'll just read the neighbor list. Sarah and Elijah Riley of 267 Tinker Street, Woodstock, New York. And I only see people I think that are coming up here, so I'm just going to read through it quickly. I don't see anybody here on the Zoom meeting. Joanne. Can't read that. Well, somebody from 12 Yerry Hill Road. Joanne Clee, is it? Kleck?
Van Cleek.
Okay. Oh, it's Van Cleek. Is
Oh,
it?
no, sorry. It's Joe Sheem and Christy Clee.
Oh, that's an ampersand. Okay. I thought it was a little D. All right. Okay. They're not here. 11 Overlook LLC, 62 Stratford Lane, Hudson, New York. 18 Stribel LLC, Bearsville Center LLC, and William and Denise Clark. Okay, there's anybody else here who's on the Zoom wish to speak about this case? If not, then I would like to close the public hearing. This does not stop us from receiving anything in writing, either from neighbors or from you, Gabrielle or Peter. We can receive more information, but we just won't be speaking about it publicly unless we were to open another public hearing.
Okay.
So with that, I would like to close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And with that, I would like to recess case number 22-02.
Thank you. Have a good
Second.
night.
Thanks, Gary.
Who
Thank you,
seconded
everyone.
the, good night, guys. Who
Thank
seconded the recess?
There she is.
Somebody
What?
second that. Somebody second that.
Second.
Marcia?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Thanks, Joe.
okay, the recess. So, okay, case has been recessed. Thank you, everybody. And with that, we would like to move on to our other public hearing for tonight. That's ZBA case number 22-03, application of Barbara Salzman as represented by Christina Dosharm Architecture. Excuse me if I pronounce these names incorrectly. PLLC, 7531 North Broadway, Red Hook, New York, 12571 for property located at 54 John Joy Road, Woodstock, New York, 12498. A 1.32 acre parcel located within an R8 zoning district for a variance from the zoning law of the town of Woodstock, Article 4, Area and Bulk Regulations, Section 260-16, accessory structures and features in yards as modified by Section 260-26B, 2C, for a 25-foot infringement into a 50-foot rear yard setback in order to construct a 30-foot by 35-foot barn workshop. Okay, who will be? Yes, Jude.
I wasn't able to open the attachments unless they were PDFs. It came up with a HTM.
Yeah,
And
some of
when
them
I
are, I wasn't able to open those either. You have to open them in your browser. We'll try and work our way through that.
Okay, I mean, I just couldn't get them open. So I don't know if anybody else was able to look at them. Maybe we can resend them or see them tonight or something.
Okay, if anybody has
And the big plans are at the office if anybody wants to pick them up as well.
okay,
I'd be happy to share my screen if you need me to show you the plan.
that would be great.
Be nice.
If you could do that, sure. Okay, so who's taking us out? Dawn? Is it you?
Yep. Hi, I'm Dawn, representing Christina Ducharme Architecture. Sorry, I've got a lot of things going on. So here is the property. Sorry, I didn't clean up everything. Of this, and we've got, what is this? There we go. All right, cool. So here's the property, 54 John Joy Road. We just completed the renovation to the existing house fairly recently. And now we are looking at the barn in the lower right-hand corner of the property for an artist studio workshop for Barb, the owner. And in order to put it in a location that is best with the slope coming down behind the existing pool house, we need to push it back a little bit into that setback. So this is the best location that we've determined at this point. And so really we're just looking for the rear setback for the barn. And if you also, we can look up over here a little bit wider. I can see. We've also got elevations of the barn. So you can see it's in keeping with the house, and it's just a little office studio. And we wanted to be able to get in front of that, have enough space to use the tackle hoist to get things up to the second floor.
How tall is the building?
It is 25 feet above grade.
What did you say about getting things up to the second floor? I'm sorry.
We just wanted a space for there's a little tackle hoist for the hayloft above. And we wanted to make sure as we go, sorry, scrolling through. Part of the reason we are locating it far into that setback is so we can get in front of this hill location, kind of right where it says 30 feet in front of the barn.
Are you keeping animals?
No, it's just an office and workshop
So
studio.
hayloft is,
It's, yeah, so you can just kind of get art or whatever we need to do in front of that location.
It's architecturally correct to the barn. It's
So it's not in the wetlands then, that's the wetland.
It's not within the no, it's not in the wetland setback, no.
Yeah, you have the 100 feet radius drawn there, so thank you. Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
So what is to the rear of the property and the right of the property? What is back in here?
To the right of the
To the where the
property,
barn, yeah, to the right and rear of the barn.
we've got a pond back here.
No, I mean the other side of you, where the.
Oh, the other property over
setback is.
here, there's
No,
a
no,
pool-
I mean the neighboring properties.
neighboring properties.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I can help you.
Okay.
'cause I obviously-
Yeah, Barb, that'd be great.
So actually almost to where the logo is, the Christina logo is another house. They're set back pretty far from us. And then they have a couple acres behind them as well. And then there's really nobody else back there. The only other
Mhm.
neighbors are on the other side of the property.
Right. Okay.
What's the size of the property again?
1.32.
And you're in an 8 acre zone.
That's correct.
How big is the main house?
Offhand, I don't have the square footage. Barb, do you recall the existing square footage of the main house?
Have we ever tallied that up? We're the house right across from Thorn Preserve, if that's helpful. We just finished renovating. Here. We usually have a lot of random decorations out front. If you've driven down John Joy, you'll know which house it is.
30 by
Is there anybody else? Any questions? I can't see, I only see, I only have, just so you know, I only have Marcia and Jude from the board visible on my screen.
Would you like me to
scroll
stop
down.
sharing? I can stop
So if
sharing.
anybody, no, so if anybody wants to. All right.
No
so
questions.
Anybody, at least not, excuse me? No questions?
No questions.
Great.
And Gordon, nobody was assigned this case, so if you would like to assign somebody,
I would like somebody to take this on if they would like. Do I have any volunteers?
I'm happy to do it. I live very close and happy to go over there.
Thank you, Joseph. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Okay, so since I can't see everybody anyway, I guess we'll just read the neighbors here. We only have a few. Christine Larson. And if I read anybody's name and they're actually on the Zoom call, just speak up if you wish to talk. Daniela Bar Ilan, Regina Kelly Keating, and the Catskill Center for Conservation. Is there anybody else from the public who wishes to comment on this case? I'm going to take that as a no. So, Barbara, I guess Joe, if you like, he may contact you to take a look at this.
Sure.
Yeah, there you are. Okay.
Hi.
And okay, Joe?
Perfect.
So we have your telephone 718, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to say the whole thing. So is that it?
Yep.
Okay. So we have that on the application. So Joseph, you can make arrangements. And if there are any other questions, I would like to move to recess close the public hearing for case number 22-03. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. And with that, I would like to recess case number 2203. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye, okay. Well, thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Dawn. Thank you,
Thanks,
Barbara.
guys.
Thank you very much. Good night, Barb.
Good night, guys. Talk to you soon, Joe.
Great. Okay, well, we have a special guest tonight. Hi, Deborah. Hi, Kirk.
Gordon.
Hi, Gordon. How are you?
Really, Kirk, you have kind of a Bill Maher look going on tonight.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
How you
That's very
doing, Gordon?
interesting.
good.
to
I'm
see
doing
you.
well, thank you.
I'm glad to hear that.
Good to see you. Thanks for having us.
Oh, yeah, our pleasure. So,
So I'm gonna,
Do you want to vote on the case first and then have their presentation or no?
no, let's get the presentation and then we'll just.
Okay.
Okay,
okay, all
thanks.
right. So I'm gonna start off, and so you all should have received the update from the Housing Oversight Task Force. I'm gonna start, but we're gonna give you the highlights of what we've been working on and outline our work and the schedule for the coming months and how the ZBA is, we see as an integral part of participating with the details that we're going to be sharing with you, which we don't have yet, but we will have soon. And we wanted to come speak with you. Now we're also talking with all the other boards and committees in the town. So you know what we've been working on, where we are in the process, and what is ahead for us and for the town. As many of you know, the Housing Oversight Task Force was formed last year around the time that the moratorium law was adopted by the town board. The town was awarded a Greenway grant. It was prepared by the Housing Committee to hire a professional planner to assist in developing updates to our zoning code to meet our housing needs and help implement the comprehensive plan that was adopted in late 2018. This complex matter, we're all volunteers. We're very fortunate that we were able to bring on a professional planner to help us to develop the tools and the procedures that you all use all the time, but to do it in a way that reflects the goals and objectives in the comprehensive plan. So things, have changed over time, and now we're at a place where we can actually update things and revise things so they meet our needs today going into the future. So I'm Deborah Dewan. I live in Bearsville, have for decades, and I co-chair the task force with Kirk Ritchie. We're 7 members, and we're all from different parts of the community. We do different things, serve on different committees and boards, have different professional and personal experiences and backgrounds. But each of us on the task force has some role in the community that touches on housing. And that's kind of what brings us together as a task force. So in addition to Kirk and myself, Laura Rickey, who's on the town board and zoning revision committee, Richard Hepner, former town board member, many other activities besides town historian, short-term rental, and Jeff Collins, who's on the zoning revision committee, and Michael Castiglione, who's here on the ZBA and is also on the zoning revision committee, and Judith Kerman, who I see is also here this evening. She's a planning board member. She does many other things. She's on Complete Streets. She's been invaluable to us with her GIS skills, and we're very grateful to everyone who's putting in the time on this effort. So reflecting Woodstock's values, our approach is that serving our housing needs and protecting the environment go hand in hand. To be more specific, for the Housing Task Force, consideration of the environment has and continues to be first and foremost. It's the lens through which we are viewing housing objectives from the comp plan. The comp plan is our roadmap, and from which we're developing the tools and procedures to implement those objectives. So to underscore that, the task force has written the following, and I'm going to read it now. The intention of the Housing Oversight Task Force work is to make housing more available to people of a range of income levels and backgrounds while preserving our town's unique character and scale and continuing to protect our treasured natural environment. With the grant that the town received, the updated code we're working on is being drafted. Oh, I just want to say there's many things that will help address our housing needs in the community, and and the housing committee is working on them, etc., and that's going to continue. But the task force is specifically looking at our zoning code, and so the updated code is being drafted by Nan Stolzenberg, the professional planner that has been hired with the grant. And just to tell you about her, she's worked in dozens of communities in the Catskills and the Hudson Valley. And she's doing this with the direction and oversight of the task force. So we're going to be reviewing the draft code and then bring it to you and the various boards for your input. And it's also going to be reviewed by a land use lawyer. There's a land use lawyer working with the planning board that we think will be invaluable to have his input as well. So we want to be sure that it will work to meet our community's needs, it being the zoning updates for housing and the environment, and that importantly, that it will work for the boards and committees such as yourselves who have to apply it, as well as for property owners. So just with that as an introduction, I'm going to turn it over to Kirk, who's going to give you a little bit of a timeline on what we've been doing since we started, and then talk about some of the areas that we're investigating and the things that ideas that we're developing as a group and with the planner. And so on to you, Kirk.
Thank you, Deborah.
Yeah, thanks, Deborah. Much of what Deborah has said is it started in July 6th, right after the grant was awarded, and we've been meeting every other week since then, the 7 of us that she listed. And one of the first things that we did was review, and with Nan, she conducted an audit of the current code. All of this is, again, I want to just emphasize, it's all only associated with housing. We're not looking at the entire code. We're looking only at those things that are related to housing. So she did an audit of the existing code and did an analysis and provided and went through what would turn out to be a really great way to educate and to give the task force the ability to understand the magnitude of what we're faced with in this group. And it became really clear, really, that it's a highly complex and requires a lot of understanding of all the moving parts, some of which you see on a regular basis in this committee. And so that analysis basically was looked from a standpoint of strengths and weaknesses and what opportunities existed within the code that we could work on. And out of that, we also conducted interviews with various parts of our community, business leaders, faith-based leaders, nonprofit organizations, town people in terms of the workers and the employees of the town and managers of departments in the town, and other in the police department and real estate brokers and developers, builders, home builders and architects and libraries, and just, really a cross section of many, many different types of people. And we asked them about their view of housing and their view of what they would be able to contribute in terms of what they think could be changed regarding the code. Obviously, most of those people, the majority of those people don't really interface with the code, but it was still very fascinating to hear people's perspectives. Where we did learn quite a bit was, especially when I met with a builder, the owner of the company, and his his perspective was really quite revealing. But anyways, so on to that, what we then moved into is that was July and August. And then in beginning in September and all of September, October, and into November, we, the task force, along with periodic support from NAN, help set the direction of, to again, go back to those opportunities of how we could construct ways within and revise our code that would do a couple things. One is that we would give the planning board and the ZBA a set of standards to operate by and within. And right now, like for instance, the planning board really only has a couple of tools available to them when dealing with site plans and such. And one of those tools is the water usage and the wetlands law and the water issues that we have in our town. But there's a myriad of other tools that we will be building into the new revised code, the proposed code, that will expand the tool set that the planning board and the ZBA that will be able to be used. Another set of things we'll be focused on is to clarify the code. So right now, the housing code is spread across the entire all of the code throughout. It's not in a central place in the code. So it's very difficult for a property owner to understand many things about what can and cannot be done in our town. So one of the things we will be doing is creating a housing section in the code. And that will house many of the new proposed ideas, and not proposed ideas, but proposed ways to function within the code. And then those parts of the code that would already exist, where things are already existing, there'll be an index within that housing section as to where to go to gain access to the various aspects. And all of these things will become clear to you when we show you the code. But what we're doing today, all these things we're talking about now, is to kind of set the stage so that you feel somewhat informed. I know we're not sharing a lot of details with you, but trying to give you an overview of what we've been working on and where it's going. Because if you look at the report in like the month of March through May 1st, March 1st through May 1st, we're going to be wanting to interface and interact with each of these, with you and the other, and specifically you and the town and the planning board and the other committees as well. But to really go over and get input and gather input on how you view the proposed revisions and ways that you feel like it would work, and how it, and maybe even ways that it could be improved. So along the journey here of us, we also are bringing additional innovations of what could be done within our town. And one of those innovations, back to holding the priority of the environment, is conservation-based development. What this is a set of standards and strict criteria of how someone can develop their site, their parcel, holding the environment as a priority first to determine what should not be disturbed and what is not buildable in terms of the site. And then the balance of that is where it will be deemed buildable for them. And so that a lot of the dictates in our town will be using first and foremost the sensitive areas of our environment, and seeking ways to protect those areas on each of the parcels. One of the exercises we did in collaboration with Judith is we looked at the town from a geological perspective, taking away all other aspects of the way the town is viewed typically with zoning and such, and infrastructure. We just looked at the geological characteristics of our town, and we layered the map of all of those various attributes of the geological studies, such as slope and wetlands and waterways and other components of the environment that exist in our town. And within that mapping system, we were able to see what was not buildable, what areas of the town are not, that should not be built upon because of that perspective. And that map exists, and we'll be sharing that map with you when we have the draft code. And then we also were able to say from that same picture what areas of our town are more prone for building. And again, this is down to the parcel level. So it was a very revealing exercise, and it gave us a perspective of how best to try to preserve and attempt to preserve housing, the environment and housing, which is often viewed as two conflicting issues. Housing oftentimes is built at the expense of the environment, and sometimes, many times, the housing is unable to be built because of the environment. So there's this sort of a conflict there between those two items. It's our goal as a committee, as a task force, to try to find harmony between those two forces, and that's what the code will represent. It will hold that as a standard going forward. So through this effort that we've been making, you know, and Deborah will get into talking a little bit about ADUs and other matters, but I just wanted to point out that here we are in January, and our projection goes into July. And so we're going to be receiving, the task force will be receiving the code in the end of this month, or actually no, it'll be in February at this point. But we're reviewing that code now as it's coming to us. And so in the month of February and into March, we will be reviewing it ourselves, back and forth with Nan, and then move that over to the boards and committees for input. And then from there, hopefully we can come to a semblance of what would be the word, consensus maybe, or agreement as to what we will want to propose to the town board. And from there, it'll move on to the county and through the legal process of being made ready for public comment. But back to Deborah to talk a little bit about some of the other things we've been working on that may be able to promote housing in our town. Thank you.
Yeah, great. I guess the word I want to sort of lead with is opportunities. So one of the things that we want the zoning code to do going forward is to create opportunities for more diverse housing options that are in keeping with our environment, character, scale, size. Mm-hmm. So we're not looking to create something that's out of character, out of size and scale, but we want to look at new at some flexibility and some opportunities within a code that can be applied on specific land. Kirk mentioned the conservation-based development, and the idea of having conservation subdivision regulations is one aspect. And we're looking at different incentives. One of the things that we're looking at is the accessory dwelling unit, or ADU options. We have that now, but we're looking to see what can be amended and revised for ADUs that would create more opportunities for more affordable ADUs as rentals. Perhaps increasing the number of allowable ADUs per parcel, depending on certain criteria, everything from affordability to energy efficiency, and also being very mindful of the challenge with short-term rentals, not to create an explosion of short-term rentals with new ADUs, but really try and promote the affordability of new dwelling units that could be created in the town. So we're looking at where they would fit best, how they would work on the land, and within the character of the surrounding area. And another thing that that's just been launched that we want to incorporate into zoning is a home share program. And you may have heard about this, something the Housing Committee and then working with family of Woodstock, Maria Elena Conte, now on the town board, has been leading this effort as well. We want to make sure that the zoning code that has to be implemented by the planning board, the ZBA, the building department, and the town board has the right definitions to include home share, so that it will be something that can be encouraged and incentivized. And there may be other things that happen outside of zoning, obviously, to make it to facilitate that, but we want to make sure that the zoning is going to match that. And the other thing that we're going to be doing, because you all and the planning board in particular, maps are so important. I saw a little bit of that as we came on to your meeting tonight. So we want to really revise our mapping and create some consistency and flexibility. Judith, again, has just been working really hard to think this through, and our planner has a consultant, a GIS specialist who works with her, who's come on and helped us to understand how best to make our mapping and GIS system work to reflect what's in the zoning law. So Kirk kind of went through the schedule of what we're doing over the next few months. It is going to be, and I just also wanted to say that having people from the different boards and committees has just been tremendously helpful. What Judith brings, what Michael brings, Jeff from the zoning committee, everybody, zoning revision, everybody has the perspective of the work that they've been doing. So for the ZBA, it's really important to understand what comes to the ZBA, why it comes, what works, what doesn't work. So when we come back to you with some draft code, we want you to look at it from that perspective to really help us understand what's working for you, so that at the end of the day, we're in accord. We've come up with something that is going to work for the entire community, and then we can go together to the community to try and move forward to bring our zoning code into alignment with the comprehensive plan, which it's supposed to be. And, you know, it isn't now. So, and this is just on the housing aspects of it, but as you've heard, it kind of touches environment. It considers use and design, and we want to really have it be something that is going to be a positive addition to the tool set that we have now to have a, to be able to have orderly and sustainable development in our community, and to do it in a way that is respectful of the environment and of the property owners and the process. So I think that kind of covers it for now.
Let me just first say, thanks, Frank, for all the work you're doing on this. It certainly is needed, because we, as you know, the zoning law is just sort of tends to be an overlay and a mishmash, over time. Seen it
over time, right?
I first encountered that when we did a few contracts, employee contracts for the town, and they become layered. And at some point, you really have to start over and rewrite the whole thing to make it, actually work. Because and we see it all the time here. We see the stuff that's ambiguous and kind of falls through the cracks, and we try to see, because what we're doing affects that and our decision. So. Or reflects it and affects it. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so if we can reduce some of that ambiguity, and I don't know if Michael or Judy wanted to add anything to what we said.
I would like to open the floor up to anybody who wishes to speak. Yeah.
I'd like to say something, Deb.
Hi, Marcia.
There are so many, how you doing? There are so many accessory dwellings right now that are being used for short-term rentals.
Mhm.
Has the subject been broached to offer a tax incentive to change those Airbnbs into long-term rentals? Has that ever been discussed?
Yeah, I guess I'll just, and turn to Kirk, but it's not directly a zoning issue, but we actually are looking at, and the housing committee in particular, at policies that the town can adopt that could help incentivize. Kirk.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was going to say, Deborah, is that I think that another wave of effort that will happen after this code is revised and we bring it and make it into law, that we can bring the town into establishing policies and procedures that would do the very thing, Marcia, that you point out, that, you know, incentivizing people to offer their property at an affordable rate or below market rate, and for long term. And there's some things we're going to be building into the code that will, again, incentivize property owners to have long-term rentals in their ADUs rather than, you know, and not allow new ADUs to be used in for short-term rentals. But that, we don't know how exactly we're going to spin that one, because that could probably be in and of itself a deal killer for some people, you know. So we're trying to find a way where we can deliver this in a way where it'll be acceptable and digestible by the town. But it's a highly complex, as you can imagine, how to write a law that will be at first acceptable, and then we can add other incentives and other capabilities and other capacities to encourage people to rebuild up the inventory of long-term rentals that have been removed because of short-term rentals.
I would look into what Austin, Texas did, because they, in the last 10 years, had revised all of their code to allow, to give more housing. And it was pretty interesting what they did. That might be something you'd like to look into.
Thank you for that. You know, there's other examples that we have that are, many communities around the country are encouraging the development of middle housing. Middle housing would be duplexes, triplexes, and quads, and all in the scale of a single family home. Right. So you're talking about holding buildings within that certain character or style of our town, and yet you're increasing the unit of capacity and by having it be, you know, triplexes and quads or clustering. You know, one of the things we'll be doing within the code is enabling property owners to cluster buildings rather than there being per lot. So that's a big one too, that we'll be able to bring things together. I think Judith has her hand up.
Yeah, Judy. Yeah, please.
I wanted to give an example, speaking from a planning board perspective, but I think this is going to be also true for you, to get our minds around not, you know, how many acres per lot in a subdivision. But the example I've been thinking about is if you had a 15-acre parcel and somebody wanted to subdivide it, let's say it's in R3. They could do 5 houses on 3-acre lots. The old way of thinking, you divide it up like a pizza pie. You cut it up into pieces, and each house is in the middle of a 3-acre lot, and you're generating roadways, driveways, curbs, lawns for each house, and it's all scattered through this, which may be very pristine forest in our case. If you had, for example, a conservation subdivision law, that might say half of that 15 acres has to be contiguous wild land. The other 7.5 acres could be 5 houses, 1.5 acres each. And they're all at one end of the property. And therefore you have much more contiguous land that is not disturbed. And 1.5 acres, I mean, I live on 0.8 of an acre, and I grew up in places where a 1/4 acre lot was luxury. We do not have to have mini mansions in the middle of 3 acres with all of the infrastructure that involves. So that's an example of how I'm thinking about, but it requires a change of thought because it's density rather than acres per lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Hope that's helpful. I'm not saying that's exactly how it's going to be worded, but that's an example of the
Yeah.
way that.
Yeah. Thank you, Judy.
Makes sense.
Is there any other comments or questions that you might have for us while we're here?
Jude?
Yep, no, don't we have a clustering don't we have a clustering provision in the zoning law for clustering? I thought we did. I'm glad to hear you talk about it in the way that you're talking about it though, because if you have a 15-acre parcel and you're preserving a certain portion, you're really not, you might be increasing the density per lot, but not the overall density.
That is the point.
That was something I was thinking about the last time I heard this presentation. I was wondering, how's that going to work? So for example, if you had a 10-acre lot and you were in a 5-acre zone, you could theoretically put 2 houses close together and not even have to subdivide, right?
Mhm.
See, I think that that has some positive aspects to it. In terms of your accessory dwelling units, boy, I hope there's a way to figure out how to do that in a way that it just doesn't end up being high-priced rentals. Because
Exactly.
I'm hearing about all these people who are renting to get around the short-term rental law. They're renting for a month now, and they're renting for $6,000 a month. That's not really an affordable range. So, I don't know if there's a mechanism for that, but I think it's going to be really important.
Yeah, we're aware of that in the housing committee. And to be able to address those rules of, convert it, then now that property essentially is a commercial property, essentially. So, there's different mechanisms that can be used, but a part of this, not much of this will have to happen at the board level and at policy level. But I think that once there's baseline of clarity of code, and clarity of procedures and processes within the code, that strengthens the ability of the planning board, strengthens the ability of ZBA. It gives clarity to the property owners, and there's an ease of use that will exist. We'll be having a most frequently asked questions section within the code. So things like that will make it easier to use the code for everyone. But then the town, and this is what the housing committee, not the task force, the housing committee will work on making policy to improve what we currently have in our inventory and finding ways to create property that is not just for the few. And we need to find a way to build housing for seniors, for our musicians who are no longer here that want to come back, for people in general who have been displaced. The workforce needs housing. Many rentals are required in order for this to happen. We also need first-time home buyers. So there's like all of these different qualities of housing that we need to find a way in which we can allow that type of building to occur, and it doesn't become another house that should be affordable but isn't because of where we live.
Right.
I agree with Jude about the accessory dwelling becoming more Airbnbs, because a lot of people that come before us that want to build a guest house or a dwelling, they say, oh, it's for my daughter. And, and I think that a lot of people that live on the property, they don't want anyone there full time. They might say, oh, we'll have long-term rentals, but once they build the dwelling, it could very easily turn into an Airbnb. And I think that's like what Jude said, that's going to be the thing to try to really figure out.
Also, when you're talking about building, and I really admire what you guys are doing, and I hope that you can solve this problem. But one of my children is actually looking around to buy a house, first-time home buyer, right? And, they probably aren't going to live in Woodstock, but occasionally she'll send me things, and she sends me houses in the Bearsville Flats. It used to be the affordable area in town that are selling for something like $400,000.
Right.
So I don't know how you get a handle on that. I have no idea, but more power to you if you can.
Maybe a couple more winters like this, people will be putting their houses on the market and leaving.
I mean,
Well,
it's,
Somebody said something recently that really struck me. This was a person who had a rental and she converted it into an Airbnb, and she said, boy, it's so much easier. I make more money. When they leave, the house is clean. I don't have to deal with a bad tenant. I don't have to worry about evicting somebody who isn't doing something they should be doing. It's neat, clean, tidy. And I can sympathize with that, but that's why we are losing some of this housing.
Yeah. Big problems. The market's making a lot of those problems exist. Which we don't have, none of us in this circle here have any control of that market. So we have to find in ways to disrupt that market in a way that we can create opportunities for people and bring some of those people back that have been displaced. And that's what our hope is find ways of disrupting that market a little bit.
And having some balance, we're out of balance. We're at an inflection point in our town. We have to really come together. These are issues for all of us to solve together.
So one of the things that I would like to add to what Deborah was just saying, it reminds me of what I feel the need to say. When it comes time, when we come back to you, and if we give you plenty of opportunity to provide input to us,
Please.
and provide, help us make and tweak it and do and identify the nuances within the things that are being revised, right? That's what you're going to have eyes for. When that happens, hopefully you'll be more invested in making this happen, helping make this happen. And if the community at large hears multiple voices that are in favor of this code from multiple places, rather than just a small circle of people, it will probably make it a lot easier for people to agree with it, right? So we're hoping that in this inflection point also, we've all been working in our silos all these years. You guys were over here in the ZBA and there's planning board, and there's all these different groups. We have a need right now to collaborate. And that's what this initiative is a part of, a collaborative effort. And that collaboration is vital for the success of this project. It really is.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the reasons why we're doing this update. Essentially, that is the reason, because we need to find a way where we can work together, make it as good as we can make it with the tools that we have, and then release it out to the public and then stand together and say, this is the best we can do right now, right? And hopefully we'll be inspire you to do that in the coming months. So again, March 1st to May 1st, that'll be the window we're going to come back to you, and we're going to bring details. And that's when the work will start, really. And thank you for listening tonight. I know we haven't really said a lot of specifics, but we're just trying to set the table.
If I can say one more thing, when you actually get the draft code, it's very important for planning board and for you in particular, these two groups.
Yeah.
At it and say, how would this be in practice?
Right.
What would be the case where this particular way of configuring the law would make a problem that we can
Exactly.
think about?
Right.
Exactly.
And then maybe you could even help us construct some of those stories that we could then tell to the community, right? Because that would be really helpful for the task force to tell, because one way people will really be able to grasp is through those stories, right? Some of the examples that Judith gave tonight, some story like that where, maybe you have the permit to use, like you go straight to the building department and build an ADU, but any things away from the standards that exist right now in the law, you got to come over to the ZBA. So how is that going to be simplified? How will that work in a way that would be easy to understand by the community, right? And so things like that is what we're going to want to be able to tell at all the different levels of complexity within the building that we're going to be faced with, right? So it's going to be an interesting 6 months. That's all I can say.
For all your hard work.
Yeah.
Well, and yours too, really.
Yeah. We'll see what we can do about bringing you something back that gives you clarity.
Yeah.
And
All right, great. Well, thank you very much.
Sure.
All right,
Thanks
Gordon
for having us.
and everyone.
Looking forward to talking again about this. So.
All right, great.
Okay.
All right.
thanks, guys.
And Michael, we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Michael.
Great job. Great job.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, so moving forward.
I'm always very wary of people who in the same sentence say, I'm not giving you any specifics, but I'm asking you to support what we're doing when we release it.
Well, they did ask us to be a part of it in the meanwhile.
Yes, and we have Michael representing us. I understand.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Trust me.
I just think it's a
Okay.
tall order.
It is.
I would just like to open case, ZBA case 21-27. Do I have a second?
Which case is that?
This is Louise Cooper for the carport on 6 Chester's Place.
Second.
Okay, do we, I made some amendments to my draft, the condition. Jude and I had spoken about this and I forgot about it when I wrote it. So I added to it and I'll send it to Michelle, but I'd like to vote on it with this condition. I did vote for a grant if you read it, but the condition I said, the carport should not be built within 5 feet from the edge of the road to facilitate maintenance of said road. Now, include plowing, and so it's not built right on the road. So you were asking for a 5-foot setback. Any other discussion on this case before we vote? Okay, so without further ado, the resolution, based upon the standards for consideration of area variances set forth in section 260-103B of the zoning law of the town of Woodstock, and area variance from the zoning law of the town of Woodstock, Article 4, area and bulk regulations, modification of required yards, section 260-26B2A, as modified by section 260-26A for a 40-foot infringement into a minimum required 50-foot front yard setback, and section 260-26B2B for a 25-foot infringement into a required 25-foot, not foot side yard setback in order to construct a 12-foot by 12-foot detached carport, is hereby granted with conditions below, subject at all times to all requirements of the zoning law of the town of Woodstock, New York State real property law, and all other applicable laws, codes, and regulations. Conditions: carport shall not be built within 5 feet from the edge of the road to facilitate maintenance of said road. The vote, Gordon, I vote aye. Mike Stiglione,
Yes.
Joseph Bellick,
yes,
Judith Salato,
Aye.
Marcia Zwilling.
Yes.
Okay, the vote carries. 5 in favor, none opposed, none absent, and none abstaining.
I feel kind of bad about that one because boy, she could have used a carport last week.
Yeah. She still have to cross that road, though.
Yeah.
That's the first thing she said, that she didn't want to clean off snow from her car anymore.
So, I sent you a copy of that, and there were to Michelle.
Excellent. I'll print it out tomorrow.
There you are. Okay, so I would like to
Close.
close case number. Why did my thing go blank? Oh,
2127.
my computer's acting up on me. Case 2127. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Okay, I would like to open up ZBA case 2128 for purpose of discussion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this is Jonathan and Rebecca Shapiro. This is for the shed, correct?
No, Shapiro is the
No, it's
one.
the big
Oh,
house.
that's cut.
The
Yes,
guest
Shapiro,
house.
yes, and Jude and I were looking into something in regards to there were some issues about studios and guest houses, and we wanted to look into this a little further before we chimed in on this. I was going to write a denial, but there are just conditions we want to look into before we let this one go. So I won't get too much into it, but we just wanted to ask the building department a little bit about, they'd mentioned alternatives, and we wanted to just look into those a little bit, what they were thinking. In regards to those ambiguities that we were just talking about, we wanted to sort of get a handle on what they were talking about before we let go of this one. So with that,
Gordon, I have down there that it's Joseph's case, but are you gonna be writing up the decision then, or is
well,
it your
he asked me
case?
to write it up because he had some personal conflicts this week. So, and I'll discuss it with
Gotcha.
Joe, but Jude and I really just had discussion today. I didn't have a chance to really do
Okay.
much with it, so I'll bring him up to speed and we'll go from there. So,
Okay.
Gordon?
yes.
Hi, this is Dawn from KDA. I was
Hey,
just
Dawn.
listening around for the Shapiro. If you had any additional questions, I'm still here for the for that guy's cottage. Happy to answer anything if you have any questions.
Oh, you're on
The
both of
public
these.
hearing portion is closed though at this point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
we
wasn't sure if
can't-
I was part of the public or not, but okay, that's fine. Just anyway, if you do have questions, you can always just reach out via email if you need anything.
Okay, thank you. We
All right,
appreciate
thank you. Have a good night.
it. Okay, I'd like to recess case 21-28. Do I have a second?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
And briefly, I'd just like to open the ZBA case 22-01 for purpose of discussion. Do I have a second?
Aye.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Judy just asked for, she hadn't had a chance to go out and look at it. And I do encourage you to take a look because the pictures aren't as revealing as when you get an actual view of the land itself. It's quite a steep incline and I think that'll affect where you see its placement and that. It becomes pretty apparent.
Did you go out there, Gordon?
I did, yes.
Okay. So we're not gonna vote on it then?
No, we'll just, well, it's there. It's not gonna change anything right now, so there's no hurry. So we'll just, I'll give Jude, we could vote on it, but I'd rather, I like to have as much,
Input.
yes, well.
Are you,
It's
Are
gonna be
you-
60 days by the next meeting, though.
Huh?
It'll be 60 days from the application by the
That's
next.
fine.
meeting.
60 is fine. 62 is the outlier.
Okay.
Okay.
are you all convinced that we need the condition?
The
I don't
condition-
know. Oh, thank you, Joe. Yeah, I don't think we need that. The
That he'll
condition you put in?
access it from his property?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of redundancy of
Okay.
law that we don't really need to get into.
Okay,
I mean, you're not supposed to trespass on people's property. We don't need to
right,
remind them of that.
okay.
That's sort of in our last paragraph on all these things. It says you must, adhere to blah, 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 blah. So,
Right.
that that's really not.
Somebody told me to put that in. I don't remember.
It was,
Okay, I'll take it out.
it was just me. They established some clear access to that shed.
They
beside
do.
what They were
We
using.
have it.
It's for the back. It comes right through there. You'll see it when you go there. So yeah, take a look. I encourage you to take a look. Say we will be voting. I would like us to vote on this next meeting.
Okay.
And Marcia, it's not 60 days as of the day when I received the application. It's 60 days as of when the
public.
public hearing,
Okay,
when it's closed. So there's
Okay.
plenty of time.
Yeah. And yeah, the shed's there already, so it's really just a matter of making it legal or not. So, okay, so with that, I would like to recess case number 22-01. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We had some other outstanding issues tonight, something, there was some, there was in the email about Marcia's letter. Did you write something? Or was that an old email?
no,
Well, I'm not, I'm not gonna-
I'd written something about the minutes. There was somehow something
Oh.
Michelle had written had disappeared, and so I said, that's all that was about.
oh, it's about the minutes.
I-
Okay.
She did it.
I thought somebody said about the letter, the welcome letter I saw.
Yeah,
Didn't
that was,
Jude
'cause it
said,
was from the minutes. That was from the minutes. That's what that was about.
There-
okay,
Michelle had
Yeah.
written something that had vanished, and so there was only a partial sentence, and so I just said, can you complete the sentence, and Michelle took care of it.
Which I did.
okay, so you didn't put it on the agenda for tonight then to discuss it? Okay,
No, but I mean, so I'll let you know, I spoke to Karen and she said that, yes, in fact, the Ulster County does receive the information like Jude and you had mentioned last week or 2 weeks ago about deeds. So once the deed is filed in Ulster County, it usually takes about 2 to 3 weeks for Ulster County to send it to Woodstock. There is no existing list per year of new house owners in Woodstock. It's non-existent. And I don't know if at the county level we might have
We
it.
resolved that. Joe had an idea last week and we resolved it. We were going to send the card out or the letter out to all Woodstock homeowners.
Okay, I'm gonna put this out there right now because that mailing would have to come from our office. And it has to get okayed. We need to budget. We need to, I mean, it's not just, oh yeah, let's make up a postcard and we're just gonna send it out. That's not,
You know, can I interject? My experience, and maybe things have changed, is that up in the assessor's office, they had a book and it was sales that occurred in the year 2020. And they had all of them in there. That's how they used to do it, and maybe it's changed. But I remember there was actually a binder that showed sales in a particular year.
she said, I mean, her exact words were, I'm not creating a document that doesn't exist.
Right. I don't think
And
a document exists.
They get a notification. They don't even get an email or anything. It's actually the, there's a program that both the county and the assessors use, and the assessors has to log in, and then that's where they can see that a new deed or has been filed and all that. And then that's when she sends out the letter that you guys mentioned, and there's a specific name for that, and that's just for, it's like updating information purposes. It's something to that effect.
Right. Right. Okay.
But it's
I mean, I
simple.
understand that she doesn't want to create a list, but I do think, I mean, maybe it's all changed. It's been a while.
Yeah.
There used to be a book.
I'll ask her tomorrow about that book. She didn't mention any of that to me today or last week. And I asked her again today, you know, just to make sure. And she is like, no, you know, there's,
You know, maybe now that things are more digital, it doesn't exist anymore. It's very possible. Yeah.
but you would think that Ulster County would have a list.
You think?
Well, I didn't fill out anything or do anything, and I got a letter from the Woodstock tax assessor to me, you know, saying about my purchase of Spear Road and if
Right.
anything was different.
Right.
So somebody is telling somebody to send a new homeowner this letter.
Right. No, Michelle just said that, yes, but apparently they don't keep track of how many.
Right. It's not like I have a system with ZBA cases where I have on FileMaker this long list. And as we get a new case, I put that on there. So it's like I don't know, at this point, it might be a 50 long page from cases from way back when ZBA started. And if you want to search somebody up, then you just write, you know, the address, the SBL or last name, and then everything about that case shows up. But that's something that I created. Assessors doesn't have that.
I
On
wonder
his
if she's sending that letter out anyway, whether you can just add a few paragraphs to that letter to accomplish what we want to accomplish.
Or stick in the brochure or whatever it is
Yeah,
in that letter
exactly.
together.
That would be a
I know
great
we do
idea.
that with the water department. So, I mean, that's one of the things that I had thought that could happen.
That would be great. I mean, that would solve the problem.
Yep.
I did an example, you know, can I just share it real quick on the screen? Or never mind. I'll just email it to you all.
Thank you. That'd be great. It's getting late.
It was just an example of
It's
a
late for
postcard.
it's getting late for this board anyway. We're
Oh, come on.
We're speedy.
I've had a very
Planning
long,
board
I've had a
sometimes-
very long 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Joe.
My business partner had COVID, so I picked up a lot of slack this week.
Oh,
Yeah, he was vaccinated and boosted, but he got it, you know, not too bad.
Oh,
He couldn't talk for a week, basically, so I had to handle all the phone calls this week.
wow.
I'm talked out. But Joe, are you still there?
I think he collapsed. Maybe he fell asleep.
Joe, all right.
All right.
Well,
We're gonna go
even though he's not there, I'm going to apologize for cutting Joe off and my exuberance. I became a bit flummoxed, but yes, you know, when somebody's recused, normally even in the meeting, they leave the room or at least leave the table. So
Right.
you don't have that. So thank you for muting and actually taking the video off, Jude.
Yeah. No, I knew what I was going to do.
Yeah, yeah. So with that, without any objection, I would like to close tonight's meeting, adjourn it.
Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks for your work on that
Thank you.
committee. That's
Sure.
nice stuff there.
All right, great.
Yeah, yeah.
See you guys in a couple weeks.
Okay,
All right.
great.
Have a good night,
Okay.
everybody.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.